record to the computer, is I'm going to start right off with the content and really get into it. And I'll go into housekeeping later, so we get right into it, because what I wanted to start with is what I call gratitude ideas for New Year's resolutions, because everybody is, it's Happy New Year. It's the holidays are over. Everybody's thinking about 2024. And I think a lot of people are feeling like 2024 is going to be a good year, maybe more better than 23 or what have you. So I want to go through some of these and and we'll do about 15 or 20 minutes of some of these things I've got as thoughts, and then I'll give you a few housekeeping items rather, and then we'll break into some breakout rooms to talk about just a couple of questions. But and some of these you've heard before, but I think repetition is the mother of skill. So I think it's important to kind of think about these things. And if you've done it in the past, great. If you want to do them in the future, it might even be better for you. It's always that time when people start looking at things to do differently. So first one, daily gratitude journaling. I put in in the links, there's the link to the in the chat rather, the links to that Gratitude Guy's gratitude journal. If you don't have one, there's a good one you can get there. But commit to writing down 3 things you're grateful for each day in a gratitude journal. I tell people to start out with 3 things. Start out with a word, a sentence, 3 things, build it up to a sentence or 2. And you get to the point where, and I'll cover this in a minute, where you're like mine, where it's, 5 minutes worth, and I'm focusing on everything that I'm grateful for, and then what I'm grateful for now and what I'm going to be grateful for tomorrow. So number 2, gratitude letters. And these are all just ideas you can think about as takeaways for this coming year, 2024. Write a letter of gratitude each month to someone who has positively impacted your life. I'm looking at some faces here of people that have definitely impacted my life, and that's something and that's maybe once a month. You don't have to do that every day. Number 3, gratitude meditation. Start or end your day with a 5-minute gratitude meditation, focusing on what you're thankful for. I always talk about your blessings in abundance. And I just did a TikTok video today, and I said, if only I had, and the topic was, the 15-second video is, only if I had, this, that, this car, this house, this wife, this whatever, I'd be happy. And I said, that's not what's going to make you happy. But if you focus on your blessing and abundance, you'll be happy. And the TikTok person came back and wrote, spoken by a guy who's obviously driving a Honda. Like, wow, that's really nice. Thanks so much for that. But whatever. Thank you notes. Send thank you notes for both big and small acts of kindness you receive. I just shot off a bunch of thank you notes for my Christmas gifts for my sons. Yep, look at that. Kevin's got one right there. And different people that have given you gifts, or for whatever reason you want to send them a thank you note. Sometimes you can send a thank you note just for being a friend, of course. Gratitude jar, you may have heard about that. Create a gratitude jar and fill it with notes of gratitude throughout the year. Imagine if you took little pieces of paper, little note cards or whatever, and wrote down one thing you're grateful for every day. At the end of the year, of course, you'd have 365 wonderful reasons that you're happy to have your health and your family and your friends and the things that are important to you. 6, volunteer regularly. Dedicate time each month to volunteer for a cause you're grateful for. So important to me. If you want to help yourself, help other people, it makes such a big difference. And boy, when I've had times when I've struggled a little bit and I thought, who can I reach out to help today, to coach, to listen to be a friend, or whatever it might be. And that's something that is I think a really good idea. Gratitude walks. I do a walk every single day, and it's usually about 2 hours worth. And I'm going to talk about something a little bit later about sometimes you don't always have to have inputs, as we call them. But I think what's interesting is that just in that walk, be thinking about what you're grateful for. You've got time. I've got about 2 hours and 15 minutes or so that I walk for the 8 miles, and it gives me some really nice time to think. And again, we'll talk about inputs later. Share gratitude with family. Implement a daily or weekly family gratitude sharing time. Of course, Zoom, we're all on Zoom today. Zoom is so popular, and you can, have these little postage stamp size squares of all the people that you're on with Zoom. You can start off by saying, what are we grateful for? You can go around the room and have every person talk about that, but so important. And I think also with the day and age that we're in now, it's just, gosh, I mean, I sometimes watch the news and wonder why I'm even watching the news, because it's just so unbelievably negative. And so it's hard to balance back and really be positive when you're focusing, or you're hearing all this negative stuff. But I think that if you can focus on, again, your family, your friends, your health, it'll get you on the right track. And so sharing that with family is very good. Number 9, gratitude and challenges. Identify and appreciate a lesson of strength gained from a challenging situation each month. That's something, and most of the people I meet these days in the last 5 or 10 years, when I look at Zoom calls and breakout rooms and networking events and so forth, are pretty positive, outgoing, can-do type like-minded people, which is really impressive. And one of the things that you find is that when you focus on challenges, it really can help increase self-esteem. And I've got a little note. I'm going to talk about a dozen ways to increase self-esteem, which is so important. I contend that some of the worst behavior that people show with friends and relatives, and I was just mentioning to Jeff about people in the family, is the reason people act out and do bad behaviors because they lack self-esteem. When you feel good about who you are and who you like and see in the mirror, you don't have to say some of the things and act some of the way some of these people do that attack other people or whatever. So speaking of which, social media gratitude posts, regularly post about things you're grateful for on social media to spread positivity. I think that's another one where social media could be the best or worst thing that's ever invented. So I'm not really sure which direction it goes, but it has a lot of redeeming values, but a lot of things that are quite negative. But if you want to post grateful things on there, that's a good idea too. 11, gratitude reminder alarms. I have a little thing on my Fitbit that actually sends a little alarm to me that says grateful and happy and fulfilled, I think are the 3 words, which are really kind of cool. And just a little reminder, and it sends it to me every day at 10 o'clock. And that's kind of a neat thing too. Read books on gratitude. Commit to reading at least 1 book about gratitude each quarter. You don't have to read one every day or maybe once a year, whatever it might be, but that's kind of a neat place too. And then for those of us that are still working, gratitude in the workplace, start meetings with a round of gratitude sharing. I can think back of my days at Nordstrom and Lowe's, and we'd have these meetings with 20 or 30 people, and we'd go around the room many times and start the meeting with, what are you grateful for? And it's just, you hear a lot of similar things, but there were some really cool, unusual things that people said that they were grateful for, which was always kind of fun. So random acts of kindness. Perform a random act of kindness each week and acknowledge the gratitude you feel for the opportunity to help others. And as I just said, if you want to help yourself, help other people is very, very true. And so gratitude and health. Number 15, practice gratitude for your body and health through regular exercise and healthy eating. And I'm pretty sure I read this before, but I want to read it again because repetition is the mother of skill. And I just remember this. People ask me, being this gratitude guy and doing talks and workshops and coaching and everything, is this a bunch of woo-woo science? And it's way beyond woo-woo science. There's a lot of science and research and study behind the impact of gratitude on your mind and your attitude. And so here's what some of the studies say. Appreciating what we have measurably improves our relationships, our life satisfaction, our health, our sleep, and it improves our physical health, leading to fewer aches and fewer pains, lower blood pressure, and less depression. Big time deal. Grateful people are more likely to take care of their health, exercise more often, and schedule regular checkups. Gratitude reduces toxic emotions. I also thought this was interesting, like envy, resentment, frustration, anger, and aggression, and enhances positive emotions like empathy, caring, and sympathy. Too much of our time is spent pursuing things we currently don't have. That is just so true. So many people are always like a cat chasing their tail, and my buddy's got a better car than I do, a better girlfriend, or a better wife, husband, whatever it might be. It's crazy. Gratitude reverses that and realigns our priorities to appreciate what we currently have. Happiness is rarely constant, so although happiness is a fantastic goal, gratitude for the tools that get you there are more important. How easily we can lose sight of everything we have to be thankful for when the circumstances of life become unpleasant. I was just thinking about COVID the other day, and boy, talk about a year or 2 of unpleasant. That's obviously an understatement. I think we've come out of that for the most part now, but man, that was a tough 1 or 2 years we all went through. And lastly, we're our own worst critics, and we hold ourselves to impossible standards, and we continually compare ourselves to other. Back to that, chasing the cat, chasing his tail. Don't get a case of comparisonitis. It's a fool's game. Science says that the more you choose positive and kind words to describe yourself, your health, your body, and your progress, the less anxiety you will experience. So gratitude and health, very, very important relationship there. And I think sometimes about when I do this power hour in the morning of of drinking my water, making my bed and drinking my water and writing in the gratitude journal and meditating for 10 minutes and stretching for 15 minutes. And then finally making my coffee and then finally turning on the devices. But my headspace is all in the right place before I even turn on the laptop or look at the cell phone. So something very important, because there's a definite correlation between, a healthy gratitude attitude and your health. Support local businesses. Show gratitude for your community by supporting local businesses. I thought that was kind of cool. Gratitude vision board. I have a vision board on my bulletin board over there. I like to think I practice what I preach when it comes to my speeches and things like that. So I'm setting a good example. Create a vision board that reflects the things you're grateful for and your hopes for the future. If you look at mine, one of the two most prominent things you see on there is my two sons. And it shows a healthy picture of me. So it is like taking care of yourself and so forth, but you want to create the vision as well as what's going on in your mind. Learn a new skill. Express gratitude for personal growth by learning a new skill or hobby. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a second, because I think that's something that really helps self-esteem as well. Number 19, teach gratitude. Share your gratitude practices with others by teaching a workshop or seminar, which of course is what I do. But that sometimes I walk off the stage and I think about my attitude, and sometimes maybe half the time I'm fortunate enough to get a standing ovation, and it's just so emotional to me because I can't believe I get to do what I do. And yet I think, I don't know if that talk was more for me or more for the audience, because whatever attitude I had, I felt even better when I walked off the stage to go back to the book table. So anytime you get to help other people, it can make such a big difference. And what is it? If you don't understand something, become a teacher of it, and you'll get it that much better. And finally, number 20, reflect on growth. This is a great time of the year to think about this as we wrap up 2023 and look at 2024. At the end of each month, reflect on how your gratitude practice has positively influenced your life. So those are some considerations. I tried to take the word "you should" out of my vocabulary. You should, you need to, you have to, and you gotta. Those are 4 things you never want to start a sentence with. Tell you, oh, I should. Oh, I think you should talk about so. Are you a speaker? Oh, you're not. Oh, great. Fantastic. Well, thanks, Amy. Let me make a note of that. Anyway, so here's some considerations for 2024. Tell the truth, especially to yourself. I found this somewhere. Where did I find it? Of course, on the internet somewhere. But I thought it's so true, because we lie to ourselves a lot and we kid ourselves. And if you have a great relationship with yourself, your whole life works a lot better. Number 2, give yourself time to think without inputs. And this is what I was talking about on the walks. From the moment I leave the condo, I got my AirPods in, I've got the book already going, I got the podcast going, it's going nonstop from all the way out there. And I come back about 2 hours and 15 minutes later. And I thought, it's sometimes good just have no inputs, have nothing, and just listen to the sound of the birds, the wind, the air, the whatever it might be. And I have a beautiful walk in Seattle where it goes along Lake Washington, and then I come all the way back to the condo. But there's just sometimes to think, and anytime, this can be for your walking, when you're exercising, when you're doing, taking your time for your journal, and then do it, and then just think. And just let your mind like create sometimes. And this idea of having time for your mind to create is really cool. Every morning, don't just plug in back into the matrix. I love the way they said that. People immediately get up. Let me get the cell phone. Let me see what's going on here. Let me get onto the let me turn on the computer and see what's happening. So that's why I like the power hour. And it just is so much more helpful for your brain to not get plugged in until you've got all those things done. I call it, as I say, the power hour, which I think is really cool. Schedule time for high-level learning. Think about some of the books and podcasts and Audible things that you can get a hold of that are really cool, classes and all this kind of thing. And it's not entertainment. I mean, I listen to music and I listen to some other things occasionally, but I'm talking about scheduling some time for some really high-level learning that can really help you. And then as a result of that, learn occasionally to do what they call a deep focus, kind of like flow, without distractions. Maybe it's just you by yourself in your office or at the desk or in front of the computer, without tons of pings and dings and bings and all this sort of stuff in the background, buzzes. God, I got a different phone the other day, and now the text goes like that on the phone. And I thought, God, what is with that? What was wrong with just the buzz before, the quick ping before? I mentioned the try new experiences, which I'm going to mention here a little bit too, which could be helpful as it relates to self-esteem when you try new experiences, because that really, and challenges can really help you. And so here was a dozen ways To increase self-esteem and self-confidence. Exercise. What a surprise. Exercise leads the list of almost every single thing we talk about. Minimum of a half hour a day. Move your body. When you look good, you feel good with more energy and better sleep. Gratitude journal. How many times do I have to say that? It's so important. Like I say, the link for my journal is in the chat. If you're interested in getting one, you can get a spiral notebook too, which is fine with me. Help others. I mentioned that earlier. If you want to help yourself, help other people. Do something you're afraid of. I remember going bungee jumping and scuba diving and skydiving and hang gliding and all this crazy stuff. And boy, that'll give you some confidence, and that'll help your self-esteem too. So whatever that might be for you, they even put a point in here about talk to a stranger. I tried that recently. I said, hey, how's it going? I was at the Starbucks. They look at me like, what are you, some sort of pervert or something? I'm just trying to talk to a stranger because that means that I'm being friendly. So you never know. Do something fun. Give yourself permission to just goof off sometimes. So very important. This one I love, and I talk about it all the time. Watch your self-talk. Gosh, I just can't believe it. You know, I've used the same example over and over again about I'll call somebody by name and I remember their names, even when I butcher it, like Jeff's middle name. And I had to get the saying right because it was Yuki-san. He goes, what are you saying there? And I said, oh, let me look at the spelling. Let me get it right. And so I got it right, but I won't forget it after that. And it's interesting because people will say to me, you're great with names. I'm terrible with names. And I will say the same thing. You keep saying that, you'll always be terrible with names. I mean, it's just watch that self-talk and think about how you're talking to that person you see brushing your teeth every morning. So something I really like, and it's about 3 feet away from me, is a notebook that says heartwarming emails and notes, all the notes and comments and things that you get. That's so powerful on days when you're not really making things happen or you're not feeling it. Start looking at those notes. I get this all the time. It's almost embarrassing to me, but it's extremely emotional. How many people tell me your work, you changed my life. You start reading a couple notes like that, you will not have a bad day when you see what you've done for somebody else too. I love this one. Smell great. They talk about the olfactory system, that whether it's fragrance for women or cologne for men or whatever, just like the smell of cotton candy when you were at the fair, think about the emotions that conjures up in your mind. So it's so important. Less TV watching down, attitude goes up, which I thought was really cool. They say max 1 hour a day, so it just kind of depends on what works in your world. Listen to music daily. Music, I think a lot of us are this way. Certain songs and certain types of music can really inspire a mood with you, and it creates positive images in the brain, which is really cool. Couple left, set goals. It's been proven over and over again. I know a lot of people don't like to set goals, and then of course we just talked about considerations for New Year's resolutions, and there's some people that don't agree with that, but I think it's been proven pretty well. When I was learning how to fly, the guy talked to me about the checklist, the pre-flight checklist, why that was so important. You don't want to forget something when you get up in the air. And then before we even left the ground, before we left the airport, we already had the entire flight plan figured out which way we were going to go. You don't just get up in an airplane and just start flying around and maybe we'll end up to the airport we want. So just the same reason why I use a map. Used to use a map for driving. Now you use your phone. But the flight plan was something it would hold you accountable, and in many cases make you much safer. And lastly, learn how to accept criticism. I mean, sometimes these trolls, I've gotten to the point where I just start laughing. What does this guy know about gratitude? What a goofball. And I look at it on TikTok or YouTube, and I just start laughing. I want to go, look, I'm just trying to make a difference out here. You're sitting behind your computer in some mobile home somewhere or wherever you are, and it's like, whatever. So be sure to consider the source. You can develop your own armor or Teflon coating that protects you from outside negativity. So very important. So, all right. So that is the content pillar for today. Let me mention, I think looks like the majority of you have been here before too, but the whole idea of this Gratitude Infusion Mastermind is just to infuse, as it says, your mind with gratitude and understanding and reinforcing the principles of why it's so important. I see everybody pretty much has their cameras on, which I appreciate. We always get started I open the Zoom at 11:50 and start right at 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, straight up. We go to noon, and if there's people that are hanging around after that, that's fine. I can always hang on for a few more questions. And it's generally I'll have an exercise or something, so it's kind of handy to have a pad and paper or a pen with you if you want to take notes. We'll have 3 or 4 breakout rooms today with the questions, which I'll get to in a second. I always encourage questions, and I will just from this content in a second. And then it is the first Wednesday of the month at noon Pacific, as I mentioned, and the registration is on Zoom. So I don't have an exercise for today, but before we go to get into breakout rooms, and I'll give you the questions, any questions, thoughts, comments from the content pillar of the last 21 minutes? Anybody that has a comment that you'd like to make? John Tonzik.
I really like the idea of the power hour. I don't remember us talking about that before, but the idea that you get up in the morning, write in your journal, make your bed, drink your water, stretch a little bit before you turn on any electronic devices.
Right.
I'm going to start that tomorrow morning.
Excellent.
My
Excellent.
new routine.
I'm happy to hear. And it's sort of, everybody can dial in, of course, whatever works for you. Some people like certain aspects of meditation and stretching and things. And I know there's a term like too much information, but I remember about a year or two ago when I started being, it was a little more difficult to put on my socks, and I'd have to stretch over my toes, and I went, oh no, this isn't gonna fly. No, this isn't gonna. I mean, what am I have to get some friend? Come on, hey, can you come over and help me put my socks on? So I started stretching, and so now it's 15 to 20 minutes of stretching, or now it's a piece of cake. So it depends on whatever you want to dial in. But another friend of mine said, I said something about getting up, and the first thing is drink a quart of water and then come in and make my bed. And he goes, why do you make your bed? You live by yourself. And I said, because like they said in the Army, something has been completed already. I've already accomplished one task for the day. So it's that, and then it's the stretching, and then it's the meditation with my little candle, and then it's the gratitude journal, which is 5 or 6 minutes, and then it's the shower, turn on the coffee maker, because I love my lattes, get the latte, come in here, and turn on the computer. So whatever works for you, whatever, and there's people that have a spiritual practice that may want to read a couple of things from the Bible or whatever works for them. So very important. So good going, John. I appreciate that. Any other questions, thoughts, comments? Mr. Walter Miller, what's going on, bud?
How are you, bud?
I'm good, bud.
So any chance you have to do a nice walk around Green Lake with old David George Brooke, you got to take advantage of it because all the information he's sharing on the Zoom call, I've been able to get firsthand on our walks. So, all kidding aside, I mean, seriously, it's like, if you do want to get, I think we do twice around Green Lake, which is 6 miles. So it's a good little way to start your weekend or whatever it may be. And it just starts the day out right. And again, tapping into my bud, of course, get to share ideas, and we do a lot of throwing back ideas with his business, my business, and if you get a chance, reach out to Dave and see if he's up for a partner. And again, it would be well worth your time. So.
Thank you, Walt. And let me just mention to my good friend STK, who will make a comment in a second, is that Walt is like me, always perennially early. We're never late. We're always early. So I lost 15 minutes of time with STK on Sunday because he was early. I was flying on the hour. STK, your comments.
Well, I wanted to say it's nice to put a face to my walking competition of Walter. So great to meet you.
Yes.
Yeah, the reminder that music was really a connection to spirit, my soul, my energy. When I'm tapped into listening to something that I truly, really enjoy or know the words to, there's no stress, there's no worry, there's no anxiety that could happen when I'm doing that. And that it was such a great reminder for me. I was watching a show last night, and I only watch about an hour of TV a day max. But it's a commitment to do that. And in the show, somebody needed to have a conversation on the phone. She like a pretend conversation, and she didn't know what to say. So she started reciting lyrics from a Steely Dan song that I absolutely love. And I knew every word, and I hadn't heard that song in years. And I just love how the brain keeps track of those things. And I might not remember your name, Walter, but if you sing a Steely Dan song to me, I'll remember the words.
Let me guess, it was Peg, right? Was it
No,
Peg?
Kid Charlemagne.
Oh, okay. I love Steely Dan too. Yeah.
Steely Dan is good. All right, excellent. Yes, I'm glad that you two get, because I talk to each one of you about each other. So now you get to make the
true.
face-to-face connections. Any other thoughts, comments? Tom, is that you raising your hand or are you just scratching your head? You must be scratching your head. Okay, so let's do
Scratch my
this.
head, David. Sorry, I was
Oh,
unmuted.
no worries. No worries. It's kind of like I've done like this before and I really didn't have so much to say. David, you had something. I go, no, I was just scratching my ear. Or
Trying to
something.
figure out if any hair is growing up there.
Well, I wouldn't know about that. All right, so let's do this. We're going to take about 15 minutes. I'll put like 3 in a breakout room. And here's the questions. They're in the chat, but just you're more than welcome to discuss any subject you want. But I always like to have a couple of trigger questions for those that are interested. Do you like or use New Year's resolutions? Because some people like them, some don't. I think that's one thing. Do you use a gratitude journal? I'm always had a virtual talk early this morning. And so I was always had my little gratitude journal up here showing everybody. And as I've always said, you can buy them. And I have the link in there. It takes you right to Amazon that I put in the chat. But if you have a spiral notebook, I don't care. It's long, just so you're writing it. And there's a little saying in the front of this gratitude journal I feel very strongly about. It says, if you think about it, it's like a dream. If you talk about it, it inspires you. But if you write about it, it empowers you. There's something about, I am so grateful to my bud Walt for walking every Sunday at Green Lake. It just plants it in your brain. And it's just so much better to really have a good connection with the grateful things you have in your life and your brain. And then the third thing is, what will you do differently in 2024? Doesn't have to be a lot of things, could be 1 or 2 things. But consider those 3 questions. So do you like or use New Year's resolutions? Do you use a gratitude journal? And what will you do differently in 2024? So let me put here, let's see, create 1, 2. Okay, so we'll create this. So I'll see you all in about 15 minutes. I'll be your training wheels, but I'm not going to pedal your bike. Find mentor. Hey, Kevin,
Hello there, George.
we're just
Am I
finishing.
one of three? Oh, you're just finishing up. Okay,
Yeah,
I
we're
was
just
gonna say,
finishing up. There's about a dozen people or so, 13.
okay.
What do we got? About a minute till,
Good. That's fine. My apologies. I'm late.
oh, no worries.
It was a
No
15
worries.
minute call, went to about three, a little bit
Oh,
longer.
no
Just
worries.
always good for you.
I'll close the rooms here in a minute and then,
Oh, okay.
get everybody back together. I talked
Great.
about a bunch of things on the content right in the beginning about some considerations for 2024, about things to think about for possible resolutions. Tell the truth, especially to yourself. Give yourself time to think without inputs, i.e. AirPods. Every morning, don't just plug back into the matrix, but maybe do a power hour. Schedule time for high-level learning. Learn to deep focus without distractions. Try a few new exercises or experiences rather, and challenges. And then I had a whole bunch of just things that were kind of gratitude themed ideas. Daily gratitude journaling. You've heard me talk about that before. Gratitude letters, maybe
Mhm.
once a month. Gratitude meditation, maybe a 5-minute meditation with gratitude. Send thank you notes for both big and small acts of kindness you receive.
I'm in the print business, so of course I sent thank you notes. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right. Gratitude jar, create that. Oh, let me close this room. This will give them close all rooms. This will give them 60 seconds to start coming back. Share gratitude with family, gratitude walks. I do that a lot on mine, although I was talking about one of the aspects is I always have an Audible book on or a podcast or making phone calls, but I've tried to get better because I do a 2-hour walk every day. I've tried to do better with just nothing and just thinking and just listening to the birds, or not always having some, as the guy used in the article I found, input of something, always some book or some chatter in the background. And it's actually kind of nice sometimes. And the only thing that I'll say is that with the books and the Audible is the time always goes much faster when you're listening to something. All of a sudden 2 hours feels like oops, hold on, I don't want that. It always feels like an hour, maybe 45 minutes, something like that. So anyway, so that was what we
Yeah,
kind of covered in the.
I did a great job. I think of gratitude. I always think of you. So
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So, all right, it looks like everybody's coming back, and just talking to Kevin Connor just hopped on board. So thoughts from the breakout rooms, any ideas, interesting comments from the breakout rooms from anybody? Don't all talk at once.
I'll mention I like Haim's comment about our first question was New Year's resolutions, and he says, "Why wait? Why wait till the first of the year? Just if you want to do something, do right now.
Right.
Just start it." And
Yeah.
I thought that was a great comment to anything you want to get accomplished. Why wait till a New Year's resolution to do it? So I thought that was good. So
Oh, that's a good point. I think it's kind of like, I notice people start their diet immediately after the biggest meal they've ever had. So, that's always a little bit easier to do. And I'm never going to eat again after this turkey dinner and stuff. So, all right. Other comments from the break? John, were you going to, Mr. Tonzik?
Yeah, I got an opportunity to talk with Jeff, who I'd never met before until today, and we had a really fascinating conversation. We took the circuitous route to cover those 3 questions, but I think we got there. We found a lot of really cool stuff in common too, so I thought it was neat.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I think I always talk about age because we're all different ages, and in most of these things, I'm the oldest or close to it. And so I don't know how many people remember. I used to say this is like musical chairs in a breakout room, but actually a better thing is a blind date. And I remember getting set up in blind date, knock, 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 and I opened the door. Oh my, hi. This isn't quite what I had in mind, but I guess we're committed. And sometimes when on the breakout rooms, it's like 30 seconds. You're either like, oh, I'm going to love this. Like Jeff's a cool guy. Well, everybody on this call is cool, but and then other times you just think, man, I had one, it was on a break. No, it wasn't a breakout. It was a Zoom that somebody hooked me up with. And honest to God, I kind of timed it because I was looking at my clock. I always have it in the back so I can keep an eye on it for these or whatever I'm doing. and she talked for 55 minutes. And a couple of times I said, well, that's like once. She goes, yeah, whatever. Anyway, but what I was going to mention further is that I think, and I just went, God dang, I couldn't get in a word in edgewise. And it's funny because I've had people say to me, well, you talk a lot. And I go, well, if I talk so much, how come I know so much about you? I must be asking some questions here along the way. It must be listening too. So back off. So anyway, other comments from the breakout rooms.
That's good.
Suzanne, certainly you must have something to add.
I'm still thinking about all the Match.com dates I went on before there was pictures on Match.com.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank God those days are over. And why have you been keeping Walt from me? Are you trying to keep us separate so we don't talk about you? Asking.
Yeah, well, it's just a question of logistics. So sometimes he's been on this call before, and you're on most of the calls, and he's got kind of a different work situation now. He's trying to dial it down a little bit. So I think he's got a little more time than he's had in the past. So it's just kind of worked out. No, there's nothing there other than Marlton, New Jersey is a long ways away from Snohomish, Washington. So we're just trying to
Hey, just checking. Just checking.
just checking. Sounds good. All right. So anything else from everybody? Questions, comments, the content stuff earlier, the breakout rooms, 2024. Would anybody have any, when we were talking about, like, to your point, Walt, about Heim, why not start it now? Did anybody have any 2024 resolutions that were particularly unique or interesting that were brought up?
Well, since everybody's being quiet, the only thing I pointed out was I don't really do resolutions. I do more of I plan, as you know, David. I take that weekend between Christmas and New Year's off for business, and so I always clear my head and kind of get an idea of what I want to get accomplished the following year. So they're not really resolutions, but they're typically a handful of things, and they've served me well. And it's again personal / business. So it's I approach both. And the one comment I made towards the end was, I always make it a point to alleviate certain relationships that are toxic in my life.
Yeah.
And I shared one with David on our walk last week, and he knows the person I'm talking about. I just decided to move on from this person. She was just not a healthy person for me to be involved with on a friendship level, and for a variety of reasons. And I already feel better from it. So it's tough sometimes to do it, but if you do it, I'll tell you what, you realize, why didn't I do this a long time ago? As you say to yourself, I've already said that to myself multiple times. So
yeah. And that brings to mind, I know some of these things I brought up multiple times, but as I've said 2 or 3 times, repetition is the mother of skill. I just love the association evaluator. I did a talk this morning, and it's a Rotary Club, but I took the time to do this association evaluator. And I think some of you have heard it before, but I think once a year you should think about 0, 1, or 2 people you should disassociate with, 0, 1, or 2 people you should limit your association with, and 0, 1, or 2 people you should enhance your association with. And to your point, Walt, the first person is just not healthy for you. And as I'm fond of saying, you go to Starbucks with the person you should disassociate with, you spend an hour with them, and you go to your car and you go, that's an hour I'll never get back again. It's completely wasted. It's completely gone. Why did I do that? I had so many things I could have done. And then the second one could be a relative or a worker, coworker. You're going to have to spend time with them, but try to limit them. And then the best one, and some of you in this very Zoom, for me, is you go have coffee with them for an hour. It feels like 10 minutes. And you go, I can't believe it's already been this. This is incredible. This is like, because you're so interested in talking to them and so forth. So, but I must say, Suzanne, it was not Walt. I think it was Crisetto. It might've been one of my fraternity brothers that I mentioned your name, and what a good friend I had back in Marlton, New Jersey. You've never met her in person?
That was me.
Met her in person?
That was me.
And I just thought, the power of Zoom.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. I can't believe I go, yeah, that's the way it works. So
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a
Barnsley,
question?
certainly you must have something to add.
I think Kevin had his hand up first. Do you want to go ahead, Kevin?
I'll be quick. I was going to go back to Walter, your comment. I think it's a feeling we've all had. You're just like, time to move on from these people. Was there anything you learned about yourself other than the fact that, why did I wait so long? I'm just trying to figure what that trigger was, what changed in you, and it finally came to bat, and you said,
You know, that's a great question. We all have a line in the sand, is what I like to call it. And you just, sometimes it's a specific topic that's getting discussed. It's like, this keeps coming up and it's just a negative situation. I don't really have a great answer for you. You just know when it's time. You just know. And again, I've had this person I'm talking about. I've known this person since I was in high school, and it's been again one of those situations to where it's never been healthy ever, and I put up with it just because of our longevity of the relationship. But that's not a good excuse. And so, but as I say, I just knew at the end of this year we were going to be done. And it's funny how when you make that decision, you know it's right because they're not calling me. That's interesting. I mean, the phone works both ways. I just find that fascinating. So they kind of know as well. So
yeah, they're not surprised.
yeah, right, exactly. Right.
I had a good friend that made a comment that I stole years ago. I've had some great friends that have become acquaintances. And you think, like, Walt, you've known her all these years. You think when you've known somebody that long, the friendship just gets stronger and stronger and better and everything. And yet you forget it goes the other direction. And sometimes you just become an acquaintance. So Barnsley.
Yeah.
So that reminds me of a very important weight loss fact. A lot of people want to lose weight at the beginning of the new year. You can say, I just lost 200 pounds. 185 of it was my ex or my friend or whoever. Anyway, I used that for a bariatric group that I spoke 2 years ago, and they just howled with laughter. Anyway, bariatric surgery group. They thought it was really funny. So I was thinking about the blind thing. All right. So I envy my blind client because her relationship with her husband is not based on looks. It's based on the feeling of him. And one thing I've really been focusing on in my life is the feeling that I want when I'm around a certain friend, or when I'm around someone I'm going out on a date with, or when I'm around my daughter. What is the feeling that I want? And it's a feeling of light and expansiveness. It's not contracted and constricted. And I'm just reminded of one other thing, that I made a judgment about somebody. We do it all the time. And this person wanted to meet with me. And I really was thinking, I don't want to meet with her. I'm going to be honest. I didn't want to meet with her. And I even said a couple of things like, I'm curious about why you want to meet. And I just had the best meeting with her. But I had to get out of my own shitty story about what I thought about her and be open to what was really there. And it ended up being a blessing. So I'm just reminded of that, because like you, David, I've gone on the blind date where you wish you were blind. That's the one where you're like, let me gouge my eyes out right now.
And yet, it's funny because I've had conversations with various people, a couple in this Zoom, about being single and going out on dates and all that kind of thing, and how long it takes to get to know somebody. But really, the looks and all that stuff is nice. It changes as you get older, of course, but it's not as important. But to me, the number one thing, without question, all by itself at the top, is the conversation. Can you have a conversation with that person that's just inspiring, and as they're talking, you just can't wait to ask them more questions, and you just listen very carefully and then do follow-up questions and so forth. But yeah, it's funny. And the other thing, I had a couple of semi-date situations recently, and it just occurred to me how long it takes to get to know somebody. I mean, it takes a long time. And that's why when these people that meet on Friday, they're soulmates on Saturday and they're married on Sunday, I don't quite understand that. I mean, what do you know about a person? And over time, and even Walt had a good example of such a long period of time, eventually the negative, or whatever you want to call it, all the truth comes out. And then you can decide whether you want to be with that or not, because some people can fake it for a long time. So
like living together is the defining factor of if you're compatible or not. But people tend to get married and then live together and then find out.
Yeah. My son recently got engaged on December 16th down in San Diego, and I was down there for a surprise party. And I told him, sometimes when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Well, in this case, the student happens to be me. and he was good friends with Gracie for about 2 years, 2.5 years. They met at Frito-Lay, and I met her down there. And many times I go down there 3 or 4 times a year. And I said, "Why don't you date Gracie?" "Dad, we're just friends. We're just friends." And they became really good friends. And then one day, one of them decided to date, and then they got engaged here now 3 years later, and they were just here for Christmas. And I just couldn't ask for not only a better son, but a better soon-to-be daughter-in-law. So that idea of getting to know somebody really pays off. Haim.
Many times we meet people, but we'll never know who they are.
Yeah.
Because we don't know who we are.
Yeah.
When you learn who you are, it's easy for you to get to know other people. Now, when you meet other people, what's in play is how they make you feel. Now, if they make you feel good, you will justify it in any way, which is when you let go for a lot of things that you disagree, but you meet with them because they make you feel good. When they not make you feel good on something stupid, you're going to delete them.
Yeah.
So that's the life we're in. So we need to know who we are.
Yeah.
Before we start to deal with other people.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I have a whole module on this about finding yourself, find your talent, find your passion, find your purpose. And I just think the whole idea is that this relationship you have with yourself is the most important relationship you have, and you can be with your creator as well. But it's so important. And it's like, if you want to get a friend, be a friend. And if you want to find people that are like you, set a good example of what you want to be like. So Margaret, now I've noticed you have not said a word. I'm just waiting for your wise counsel. And you're going, "Dang, David, don't call on me." But I think Miss Dorchester has to say something that's going to be powerful. I just can feel it in my bones.
Well, I was in the team with Kevin and Tom, and we exchanged good stories and feelings and ideas, and we're pretty compatible. 2023 has been very, very difficult for me. So I'm positive about 2024. Good. That things will be better. So that's my main sharing.
So can I just ask you one follow-up to that? For 2023, was there one thing that was your best coping mechanism?
Exercise.
Oh, that's a good endorsement for that. Yeah. Yeah.
And music. You talked about, or someone talked about how music's important and can put us in good moods and things, and that's been helpful for me.
That's a great, thank you. And thanks for giving that feedback, because that's a great input. Walt mentioned we do these 2 laps around Green Lakes, about 6 miles. And whether it's that or on the walk, sometimes when I'm out walking this 8-mile course I have down here, talking to Suzanne or listening to a podcast or whatever, no matter what mood I'm in, I'm always in a better mood when we're done. And you just can't help it. And the circulation and the mental and emotional well-being comes through exercise is so important. And every book I've ever read, as I've gotten older, I got another big birthday coming up next. No, it's this month, end of the month. And it just reminds me, life is going by fast, but exercise is almost at the top of every list on every book that'll talk about how you can take care of yourself for as long as you can and be as healthy for as long as you can. So, all right, everybody. Well, I'm very on par with, thank you, Margaret, on par for being on time. Any further questions? If not, 1 o'clock straight up Pacific time. And then I'll look forward to seeing you all in February. And I think it's February 7th is next month. And with yet another topic, and hopefully a lot of good conversation, as we always have. So
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, David.
Take care. All righty.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You.